Research, high-profile interviews, and the radio and television broadcasts of Brannon House. This is Brannon House Live. Whether the issue is law, science, economics, history, family, social issues, education, religion, government, or national security, Brannon brings the issues of the day into clear focus through the lens of a Judeo-Christian worldview. And now, here is your host, Brannon House.
And welcome to the broadcast on this April 16th, 2025. We are still in the Midwest. We had a great rally last night in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. We literally filled up all the seats and had people standing in the back. We're going to show you some of that tonight. Also going to have with us Twyla Brace. She's with an organization that's been fighting the Real ID Act for several years. She has something to say about DHS Secretary Kristi Noem leading everybody to believe that come May 7th, you're not going to be able to get on a plane. And how this is all leading to a digital ID and why we better fight it, folks. Why we better speak up and speak out now. A lot of confusion about this. A lot of it thanks to Kristi Noem and what she's been saying that's going to happen come May 7th. We'll get with Twyla Brace on that. Also joining me tonight, Aaron Goldson. I pre-recorded an interview with Aaron this afternoon. Aaron is someone I called 2 years ago when I found out in my state of Tennessee how short the statute of limitations was for people that have been molested. The ability for them to take civil action against organizations, churches, day camps, whatever it might be, to take action against individuals and organizations. Sadly, many churches today, and I'm talking the Protestant churches, the Catholic churches have had a problem, the Protestant churches have had a problem with hiding out child molesters or protecting them or sweeping it under the rug. Many people who are molested as young kids don't say anything about it, but then when they become adults, they realize what happened, or they knew what happened then, they just didn't say anything for fear, but now as adults they feel more empowered to speak up. But by then, the statute of limitations for civil action had run. When I found out about this, I called Aaron, and I said, Aaron, we need to fix this. Aaron went right away to fixing it, and I want him to explain to you how Tennessee can be a model for your state. Not only was the statute of limitations for civil lawsuits extended, but also criminal prosecution. Aaron's going to share that with us tonight. Very big, important case. And bill that got passed and goes into law in Tennessee July 1st. And I'm hoping for many of you, it'll be something you can use as a template to have passed in your state. Okay. Michael Weiner is going to join us to talk about gold. Gold's at about, $3,343 an ounce. Can you believe that, folks? Silver popped up over $33 as well today. Is the Fed going to be forced to lower interest rates? Are they going to be forced to pump more money into the economy? Is the dollar collapsing? Peter Schiff thinks we're at the point of which he's been warning about for many years. We'll get to all that tonight and more. What a great event we had last night. I want to play for you a little bit later about 15 minutes of my hour presentation. I'm only going to play 15 minutes for you. The rest is in the vault for Vault members, and you can join at worldview2.com/vault. And the presentation, some of them are up there. The rest will get in there pretty quick here, folks. But I want to bring a little bit to you. Also, Dolly made an appearance on the platform last night after I spoke. Do we have that video to play, Logan? Yep. Let's go to Dolly making her presence known. Greet her, our studio dog, greeting the fine folks at our standing room only Worldview rally last night in Milwaukee. Watch this. Logan, are we ready? How many of you would like to see our studio dog, Dolly? Now, she's never been in front of a crowd this big. She's always lived in a studio with just a few people. So I have no idea. Hopefully she won't wet the floor. But
She is shaking. Is she nervous or excited to see Dad? She's not even a year yet. So she'll be a year. You want to come out here with Dad? Come on. She'll be a year May 16th. Look at all these people. Look at all these people. Yeah. Do you see these people? Do you see them? Do you recognize any of them? Ooh. Oh, you are shaking. Yes, that's fine. You want to say something? No? Ooh, she's really checking you guys out. Yeah. How many of you guys in the room have a yellow lab, chocolate lab, black lab for your hunting? Yes, just a few of you. I thought more of you would have that up here with pheasants and everything. Do you like this crowd? Huh? This is who we talk to every night. You know when Dad sits there and talks to that camera or that microphone? That's who I'm talking to, these folks. Yeah. Say, I'm a service dog, wink, wink. Wink, wink. It gets me anywhere Dad wants to go. No one's questioned him yet. All right. Is that good? Are you ready to go back to your kennel? Yeah, My wife says, can you put her in her cage? I said, we don't call it a cage. It's a kennel, right? All right, well, there you go. That's Dolly, our studio dog, Dolly. Oh. Here you go. Here you go, Logan. Good girl.
There you go. Studio dog Dolly. Now I must tell you, all the dogs, our two mini schnauzers and Dolly, are worn out. Sleeping a lot today. I wish I could have joined them. We left last night at 11:34 from the Waukesha Expo Center. What a great honor to stand and visit with you guys at the end of the evening, and thank you for all the kind words, the encouragement. I got some gifts last night. I want to share a few of those, show you guys a few of those real quick. I showed them to the audience last night that was there, but I want to show them to you because I think you'll be impressed. I think you'll say, that's pretty cool, Brandon. So I got a couple great gifts last night, but stood and visited with folks for a good 2 hours last night after the event. And we left at 11:34, got into northern Illinois, where we set back up again, had to take everything down to take it all with us to the Waukesha Expo Center to film it and carry it for our live streaming audience, and then set it all back up. So we got in at 1:07 a.m., 1:07 a.m. But then we had to unpack everything, a lot of the stuff. And so it was pretty late by the time we got into bed. And, of course, back up early this morning to continue setting up the studio and getting ready to broadcast all day. So we're all pretty tired, but the dogs are definitely tired, wiped out for the most part today, traveling and just all the activity that was going on. So we're here, though. We're here, and we're going to keep going. Now we'll be here for our Wednesday programming, our Thursday programming, and then we're going to take Good Friday off. We'll give the crew a break. I think they need it. I need it. I know Logan needs it. And we're going to use Good Friday to travel back to the Mid-South, okay? So we get back home and back into our studios. So there you go. So we'll be here with you, of course, today, and then again Thursday out of the Midwest before we head back to the Mid-South. Well, you guys all know I love historical papers. I've asked you guys if you have any historical papers that you don't think your kids or grandkids want, or won't preserve them, you're more than welcome to bring them to me or ship them to me. We have about 17 historic photos or paper headlines that are framed and matted in control room number 1, and they're very historical, great papers. Well, last night a gentleman came up to Logan and said, I have something for your dad, and he handed him a stack. And then I came back of the platform last night, and Logan said, look, someone gave you these. And of course, this is one. I have some of these already, but I always love adding to it because I don't have one from the New York Times. The U.S. attacked. That was, of course, September 2001, of course, right? Now, check these out. Now these are getting really old. Here's one from August 14th, 1945. War ended, Truman tells nation. Look at that. 1945. Now, these will be framed and matted and put in our control room. Morning in America. This is the Journal Sentinel about Ronald Reagan. And now look at this one here. March 29th, 19 1969. Mourn Eisenhower. Isn't that something? Chicago Tribune. This one here, June 6th, 1940. Nazis bomb England. Nazis bomb England. That's the Chicago Daily Tribune. Roosevelt is dead. April 13th, 1945. Aren't these cool? This gentleman, I asked him to stand up last night so I could see who it was and thank him personally for everyone. He says he has a lot of these. Like, I have a ton of these papers. And he's a collector, like myself. But I bet, clearly he has more than I do. Here's the Milwaukee Sentinel. Tuesday morning, November 26, 1963. He rests. U.S. mourns. Eternal flame over grave. Look at that. It's got John saluting his dad. 1963. That's the Milwaukee Sentinel. Here's another one. Oswald Schott dies. Oswald Schott dies, slain amid Dallas jail crowd, November 25th, 1963. This is the Milwaukee Sentinel as well. So that is a real treasure. These are real treasures, and they will all be framed and matted, so they're preserved and hung in our control room, number 2. And so there you go. I think a new conservative Christian news outlet should definitely have some new historical news headlines, and we do. We're adding to them, and thank you to that gentleman that did that. Very nice. Another gentleman came up to me last night at the end. He said, "I'm a retired U.S. Marshal. I've listened to your show for several years. I thought you might appreciate these." I don't know if he knows I have a coin challenge collection or not, but I do. And this is now going to be added to it. So he brought me some coin challenge coins from the United States Marshals. And he says, I don't think they make these anymore. But this is obviously something that's limited. So that'll go on the rack that I have, where I have a lot of different coins like this. So that's awesome. So thank you to that gentleman as well. What a great night. Logan, do we have a picture of the crowd? Can we show them the size of the audience there?
Yeah, I had it next to you a minute ago.
Oh, you had it next to me a while ago?
Next to you now.
All right, there you go. Amazing, right? Absolutely amazing. And Logan did a great job. And we had Michael Nini with us last night as well. And he's been working with us since he was 17. He's now 40 years old. So he's been a part of our team a long time. So that was great. All right, we got to get going. But before we do, remember, folks, we're brought to you by you. Last night, you know what? Last night we had several people talking about Bella Grace. My wife visited with a lot of folks at the resource table. I wasn't always back there, so she visited with a lot of folks about Bella Grace, and she didn't tell me about it. But I had people mention it. One lady said to me, I was signing books, some of my books, Marxianity and whatnot. And one lady said to me, "You have more hair in person than you do on TV." And I said, "Well, thank you. Thank you." And several people were commenting on my hair growth. And of course, they could see 360, right? And yep, folks in person were able to validate that I have a lot more hair than the last time they saw me. And there's only one thing I've done that can really account for it, and that's Bella Grace. Take a look at the screen. You know it. It's a great way to support us, great way to support your health. My wife, Melissa, said last night that there was a lot of people there that are taking Bella Grace. A lot of people that are also taking Gatatana and Numi. And they were telling us how much they appreciate the products, the difference they've made in their life. They were also saying how much better they feel and thanking us for researching these products and bringing to their attention these products. Well, we don't promote stuff we don't use ourselves or we don't believe in. I got on the Bella Grace December of 2023, and the response has been amazing for me, and you've heard me talk about it. 80 clinical trials behind it. Melissa loves the skincare at melissahousebg.com. The Bella Grace, or the Bella Trim, I should say, the all-natural plant-based Bella Trim. It's also great for your cardiac health as well. Helps with stubborn belly fat as well. The restorative sleep, you can take some of the gummies. Melissa takes 2 a night to help her stay asleep. So you can find out about that, all of that at melissahousebg.com. Get a subscription and save. Get a subscription and save. The restorative sleep, the all natural gummies, the Bellatrim, also great for your cardiac health as well. So check all that out. And then head on over, if you would, to worldviewtube.com/sponsors. worldviewtube.com/sponsors. Here's the health kits. Now, there's a lot of talk about China, what's going to happen with China, with Taiwan. So make sure you have the meds that you need on hand, emergency meds on hand. If you need antibiotics, you got to be careful not to take antibiotics too often, folks. You really do. I'm not pushing antibiotics on you to take just at a whim. But if you get into a serious health crisis, you're going to need them. And if we have an issue in the country, a cyber attack, a situation with war, or just a situation with just-in-time inventory, particularly with many pharmaceuticals coming out of China, this could be a real problem. So make sure you have your medical kits on hand. You can also check into their wellness company's different health plans that include, one, the enhanced version, free prescriptions, or the ultimate free prescriptions and free supplements. So check all that out, please, at worldviewhealthcare.com, or you'll just find it when you go to our sponsors page, worldviewtube.com/sponsors, worldviewtube.com/sponsors. I may be on the road, but I'm still taking my Gatatana every day. I'm taking my Bella Grace every day. I have my Numi I swish with. So we bring all this with us on the road. Here's my Numi right here. I'll talk about that in just a minute. The Gatatana, I've already had that today. Melissa gave that to me early. I needed a boost of energy because I'm exhausted. So I went ahead and took that earlier today. But this is one scoop equivalent of 90 billion plant cells. You've heard me talk about the man behind it, his terminal condition. He started eating the phytoplankton, and voila, he went on to live another 10 years. It's great for your pets. Yep, I may be traveling, but Dolly's still getting her half a scoop a day on her food as well. So I hope you'll check this out. Get a subscription to this, folks, so you don't have to worry about it not showing up or forgetting. This is very important. I think it's the power of three. My Bella Grace, my Gatatana, and my Numi. Again, you'll find this at melissahousegpa.com, melissahousegpa.com, or you can just go to worldviewtube.com/sponsors to find it as well. Just look for the Melissa House GPA banner at worldviewtube.com/sponsors. Of course, you know about Worldview Talk. I brought my satellite phone with us. I travel with my satellite phone. Something happens, I'm out of town, I still need to be able to communicate with people. So I brought my satellite phone with me. I brought my Bivy with me that can sync to my cell phone. Even if cell phone towers are down, I can still sync it to my cell phone, compose a text, send a message through my Bivy to family members that have bivvies on the other end. Also, again, my satellite phone. And you can get one at worldviewtalk.com, worldviewtalk.com. And then, of course, the solar generators that are available as well there. So check all that out. Here's the Numi. Switch with that. That helps to detox your cells. Every day I read about some of the toxins in our food. RFK Jr. is really coming out and talking about the fact that, I saw today, I think it was today, 80% of Americans, when their blood is tested, 80% of Americans have toxins in their blood. 80% of Americans. Well, glutathione helps to detox your cells, goes right into your bloodstream. This glutathione has 162,000 studies at PubMed. Numi contains the glutathione. Studies have also shown that glutathione may remove mercury from your brain, helping prevent Alzheimer's, dementia, and Parkinson's. So it's very, very important, folks, that you consider Numi as well and get a subscription where it shows up automatically every month. Again, all of this is at worldviewtube.com/sponsors, worldviewtube.com/sponsors. Check it out, folks. You can help make this broadcast continue to go forward free of charge for everyone to watch. So thank you. Here on this page, check it out. They're all there. Go through it and use all these products. Will you? Thank you for doing that. All right. So Thank you for that, folks. I want to share with you just about 15 minutes of my talk from last night, just to give you a sense of what these events are like. And then we're going to go and talk with Twyla Brace and Aaron and Michael Weiner. So I want to take you to the auditorium for just a few minutes from last night's Worldview radio rally.
Take your Bible, go with me to 2 Corinthians chapter 10. I think we have it up there too, don't we? 2 Corinthians chapter 10, verses 4 through 5. For the weapons of our warfare are not carnal. You know what that means? I wanted to look that up. So I did go to Strong's Concordance to say, is it what I think it means? And by the way, you can go to BibleHub.com and get all these for free. I love that, right? And what it means is, it's not of the flesh. These are not weapons made by fleshly men. These are not weapons of flesh, but mighty in God, pulling down strongholds, casting down arguments and every high thing that exalts itself against the knowledge of God, bringing every thought into captivity to the obedience of Christ. Let's pray. Our gracious Heavenly Father, we thank you for the opportunity tonight to open your word, to seek to understand the times and know how you would have us to respond. Lord, there has been so much effort and energy and even finances invested into this evening. Many have traveled, not just us, but there are many in this audience. I know some have come from hours and hours away to be with us. And unless tonight, as Dr. Woods has already done, as I know Aaron will do, unless our foundation is your word, then this evening will come and go, and it will not count for anything eternal. But we know that if our time is tonight built upon your word, that it will last. That your word doesn't return void, the grass withers, the flower fades, but the word of God will stand forever. So tonight, we want to make you the center of our talk, the center of our presentation, and we know that your word is a reflection of your character, your nature. You cannot separate the word from yourself. So tonight, we thank you that the word became flesh and dwelt among us, that you laid down your life as a ransom for sinner, the God-man, fully God, fully man, Emmanuel, that he who knew no sin became sin for us, that we might become the righteousness of God. And we thank you for that. We give you all the honor and glory. And all God's people said, Amen. So that's our starting verse tonight, is I want to speak to you on Satanism, globalism, and a world of spiritual deception. Satanism, globalism, and a world of spiritual deception. And we're going to come back to that verse as we wrap it up tonight and do a full circle. Paganism and witchcraft are making a comeback. My friends, tonight I want to make it very clear, as you know, but I think we have to remind ourselves that this is not a battle of nationalist versus globalist. This is not a battle ultimately of the right versus the left, Republicans versus Democrats or independents or libertarians. It's not about anything really at the end of the day than a battle between God and Satan. So many of the things that have been presented to our world, our culture, they're masking terms. This audience knows for so many years I use that phrase, cultural Marxism over and over and over. So the audience probably thought, could he go through one program without saying cultural Marxism? But we knew that this was a foundational worldview that was permeating education and media, brought here in particularly 1933 by the Frankfurt School, which was called the Marxist Institute. They came here at the request of John Dewey, and they were dropped down at Brandeis, Berkeley, Princeton, and they said, we're going to go after education and media. They were Marxist. And what did Karl Marx say? My object in life is to dethrone God and destroy capitalism. To dethrone God. This is a battle between God and Satan. God has his children, and Satan has those that are his. A common phrase today is, we're all God's children, but you and I know that's not true, that we only become a child of God through faith in his Son, Jesus Christ. We become joint heirs. But today our culture calls it DEI. It's called political correctness. It's called the LGBTQ agenda. It's called tolerance, multiculturalism. At the end of the day, these are values that are at war with God's values. You know that. I know that. But tonight I want to just encourage you to understand even more that as we get sometimes weary, tired, maybe sometimes discouraged, that we have to remember we're in the middle of a global spiritual battle. Ephesians 6 speaks of this, of course. And it's already been said tonight. Dr. Woods and I didn't go over our notes. He's already used a line I was preparing to use. We both quoted, and now both quote, Dr. Adrian Rogers. The dark, it's becoming gloriously dark. So I have to remind myself each and every day, this isn't about people on the left attacking us. This isn't about the Marxists attacking us. This isn't about Hamas or Muslim Brotherhood attacking us. These are just simply the agents of Satan involved in a great spiritual battle. I think at times I have to remind myself that these individuals are tools of Satan. And yes, we desire that they would come to repentance. But Satan uses these people to wage war against the church. And this is going to increase once the church is removed and the restrainer has stopped restraining. But this great global spiritual battle, this war between God and Satan, is going to have a climax. We'll get to that. And we see this. Witchcraft, paganism. This is really Satanism. But it's rising. Number of witches rises dramatically across the U.S. as millennials reject Christianity. These are just a few headlines. But yet at the same time, sales of Bibles are booming, fueled by first-time buyers and new versions. First-time buyers. Bible sales are spiking. Do you know something, folks? Tonight we are streaming, and we have people that have bought memberships to our vault. And some of them buy memberships because they like our news and our information. Some of them buy memberships because they like the fact we teach the Bible. We teach a Christian worldview. Some subscribe who will tell us, I'm an atheist, but I love to listen to your broadcast because I agree with so much of what you say except for when you get on the God stuff. But I like everything else. We have others who say, I was an atheist, now I'm an agnostic, but I'm coming your direction. Others say, I left the church years ago, I've now returned to church. Others say, I can't believe that I've become a Christian, because if you knew me a few years ago, you would think I would be the last person to ever become a Christian. But I've been listening to your programs. Or my husband, or my wife handles customer support. She's in the back there. She handles customer support and donor relations, and she talks to so many of you. She even said tonight, there's a couple of people that I talk to frequently, but sadly they won't be here tonight. I wanted to meet them. So she knows who a lot of you are by name, but maybe not by sight. But she and I both know many of you by name. And she has so many, as do we, through email or text. It will tell us these testimonies. One gentleman has told us, and this is kind of consistent, I told my wife, stop listening to that guy. I badgered her for so long to stop listening to you. And now I don't miss a day. And sometimes it's the wife telling the husband. So there's a spiritual battle going on. And sometimes it's going on in homes, right? But Bible sales are spiking, and there are people that are tuning into us who say, I'm not a Christian, but I want to hear what this guy has to say because I don't know what else makes sense other than the fact he keeps bringing it back to the Bible and a biblical worldview. On election night, there is a gentleman you may have heard of who also has a social media platform. You may have heard of him. His name is Donald Trump. And he has Truth Social. But he has another platform called Truth Plus. It's like Roku. It's a streaming platform. And his people started carrying us on Sunday night. On election night. On election night. And the gentleman that we're dealing with said to Logan handles all this as vice president of operations. He handles all this stuff that I don't understand. I don't know how he knows how to hook all these cameras up and make it all run through a switcher back to Memphis. Now, I used to set all the cameras up and could run them to, SD cords and record them and post edit, but I don't understand. I trained him in, and he went way beyond me, so I have no idea how we're going through our control room and everything else he's doing back here with all this equipment. But he handles all of this, and he deals with all of these representatives at these different platforms, and he recently has given applications to platforms I've never even heard of. Some of them I've just heard of, Tubi and all these other platforms, who want to pick up programming like ours. I said, they do. They said, oh, yes. He said, yes. They realize there's a market for what you're doing. I said, oh, is there? They realize that now. Well, the Bible sales are spiking. People realize now, right? But the gentleman we work with President Trump's Truth Plus said to Logan, we like the professionalism of everything you're doing, and it's a wonderful little network you got there going. But we also like one particular thing. We're looking for more of that. We like the fact, you ready for this? He said, we like the fact that your dad has a Sunday night church service where he teaches the Bible. And we need more of that, and we want more of that. I said, you got to be kidding me. We have a president of the United States that owns a social media platform, now a streaming platform, and his people want us on their platform, and one of the reasons they want us is because we're teaching the Bible. And so we're getting wonderful opportunities because there is a hunger for truth, and people are turning to the Bible. And they're scanning the dial on radio, and they're coming across VCY America. And people will email us and send letters saying, I was scanning the dial, and I came across you on this network, on this terrestrial station. Wow. Aren't you thankful for VCY America and Jim Schneider and Dalton and all of the folks, Josh and Justin and Molly and all of them who keep this network going? Karl Marx said, the idea of God is the keynote of a perverted civilization. It must be destroyed. In one of his poems, Marx said, thus heaven I have forfeited, I know it full well. My soul, once true to God, is chosen for hell. In another poem, Marx explained, I wish to avenge myself against the one who rules above. Even a letter from his father, March 2nd, 1837, reveals his own father was fearful that his son was under demonic influence. So Marx, we talk about Marx, we talked about Marxism. Can we call it what it really is? Satanism. I had to pull out of my library in the last couple weeks preparing for this, the book by Richard Wurmbrand, Marx and Satan. Richard Wurmbrand spent 14 years, as you know, in a Romanian communist prison, tortured for Christ. He spoke before a congressional committee in 1966. Some folks had purchased his freedom, and they said, before you leave here, just know this. If you go out of here talking badly about us, we'll just have somebody take care of you, take you out, murder you. Or maybe we'll just hire someone to kidnap you and bring you back. So you need to go out of here and be quiet about us. Well, within a matter of a very short period of time, Richard Wurmbrand was sitting before a congressional committee giving testimony about what happened to him in the church under Marxism. And he even at one point apologized to some of the ladies in the audience and gave them a warning. He was about to take his shirt off, and he did, and he showed them the physical scars, the members of Congress, the physical scars of his tortures. It was not uncommon that the audio system in the prison would play the noise of a cat being tortured for hours. Or a woman being raped and they were being told, that's your wife, that's your daughter. It's even been reported that on resurrection morning they would serve up to some of these pastors feces on a cross. Here, conduct your service. Folks, is that not Satanism? That document by Richard Wurmbrand was the most sold government document for the next 3 years. 1 John 5, verse 19 tells us, we know that we are of God and the whole world lies under the sway of the wicked one. Of course, there's a spiritual battle. It's a demonic battle. We know that things are very much on a fast track. We can barely keep up. Now, there are some days where the news cycle is a little slow, and I'll say to Logan, it's kind of a slow news day today. That's not very often, but occasionally. Other days, there's more than we can get in. I'm not supposed to be on the air, but 7:30 to 9 every night. And if you watch me at night, you know, sometimes I go 2.5 hours. I'm well outside my time slot. I didn't put anyone behind me but myself, and I can preempt myself. I play a recording of radio from that day at night, and I can bump myself. I said, let's not put anyone behind me, because some days the news is so much, we need to just keep going. And if people want to go to bed, they can do that. They can catch it later. So there's some days we have so much news because it's happening so fast. Can I tell you something? It's actually slow compared to what it's going to be. It will look slow compared to what's coming. Revelation tells us, Revelation chapter 1, verse 1, the revelation of Jesus Christ, which God gave him to show his servants, things which must shortly take place. And when you go to Bible Hub and you look under Strong's Concordance, that word means quickness, speed, hastily, immediately. When the events of Revelation begin to unfold, and they haven't started, the stage is being set, but when they begin to unfold, it is going to happen immediately, hastily.
Joining me now is Twyla Brace with RefuseRealID.org. We had her on about a month or so ago. And since then, Kristi Noem, Secretary of Homeland Security, has come out and said, hey, you're going to have to get your real ID or you can't get on a plane come May 7th. Wait a minute. That's not consistent with what Twyla was telling us. So we wanted to get her back on, and I'm going to play a clip from Kristi Noem, but see what she's saying, because that's not what we were being told a month ago. And I'm not for this real ID. I think it's going to lead to a national ID card, digital ID, and we know the World Economic Forum, they said in 2018 in one of their documents, they want us all to have that to be able to vote, travel, get on social media, do banking. And I want to ask Twyla about voting. Is this because some so-called Republicans are pushing this as a way to deal with voter fraud? Let's talk about that tonight with Twyla. Twyla, welcome back to the broadcast. Thanks for being with us.
Oh, it's always great to be here. Thank you.
What do you make of the latest announcement by Kristi Noem? Because it doesn't seem to be consistent with what you were telling us a month ago. And frankly, I trust you. And I'm not sure I trust what she's putting out.
Well, the problem is that she, here she is at the highest echelon of our government, and she is using fear-mongering to try to compel the public to do what she wants the public to do, which is she wants everybody to submit to Real ID and do it as soon as possible. So she's actually making use of panic in an attempt to get the public to do what she wants the public to do. I mean, the fact of the matter is there's a regulation that came out in January. It's the progressive enforcement rule. It's 2 years of enforcement. And when we heard what she said on Friday, April 11th, we did a brand new document. And you can find it at refuserealid.org. And that document is, yes, you can fly. Because she said, if you arrive at the airport on May 7th without a real ID, you probably won't be able to fly. And that is not at all what her own rules say. That's not what the regulations say. That's not what her department says. A rule is a very official thing, right? And it's out there. It was published in January, and it says that if they require the real ID on May 7th, just like for everybody, there's 44% of the American public that don't have one. But if they require it for everybody on that day, there's going to be disruption, there's going to be mayhem, there's going to be public backlash against the security agents. That's what the rule is saying. And so that's why they said that they gave flexibility. That's why they said they delayed it and gave 2 years for this to happen. And so now, she comes out publicly and says, basically, you can't fly on May 7th if you don't have a real ID. And, what is she doing? Why is she lying to the American public? I don't know, but I think it's because she wants everybody to bow, everybody to bend, and everybody to submit, and she wants them afraid so that they will do that.
So you're saying there is a 2-year enforcement period, not a deadline of May 7th.
So what the rule says is that the majority of federal agencies, about 95% of them, are probably going to stick with the May 7th. But most of those are places where hardly any of the public ever goes, like going to the Department of Homeland Security itself, or going to the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services. Most Americans don't do that. You have to have a meeting with somebody, and that's rare. But like going to the airport, as they said, is a high frequency or high level travel area, right, with lots of people. And that's particularly why they gave the 2 years of enforcement, because they're very concerned about what would happen at the airport if they just put the hammer down on May 7th. So, if you go to refuserealid.org, we took a few comments. It's a 65-page rule, but we just took a few of the most revealing comments and put them in this document and showed how people will be able to fly. And no matter what, people still will be able to fly because they could use a passport. If they're a veteran, they can use a VA medical card. If they're in the military, they can use a card. But did she mention that? No, she just said, if you come to the airport without a real ID, you aren't going to be able to fly. And so, it's just a bad, terrible thing coming at the highest level of our government to have her say that. And, I saw an interview with her on, I think it was Fox and Friends, and the Chiron, that strip at the bottom, it said something like real ID needed to fly on May 7th. And I thought, okay, but it's her tweeting it, and she's saying you can use your passport and other acceptable identification. And I thought, and I said this in a X post, right? I said, but did she say that on Fox and Friends? And I listened to the Fox and Friends, and unless it's a clipped account, she never said that, which is probably why Fox and Friends put on those words, you need a real ID on May 7th to fly. So here she is, sort of couching this, putting it in the tweet, right, or in the X post, but not having actually said it on Fox and Friends. Now apparently there is something new out where she's actually mentioning passports, and so there's a lot of backlash on X regarding the fact that she said this, and a lot of people know that she was lying. I don't know why she would even do this.
Yeah, why would she do this? Let's go to one of the PSA she's made. Listen to this, folks.
Hi, I'm Kristi Noem, the United States Secretary of Homeland Security. If you plan on traveling, we need your help to prevent delays and to prove your identity. Get a real ID. Starting May 7th, you will need a real ID to travel by air or to visit federal buildings in the United States. These IDs keep our country safe because they help prevent fraud and they enhance security. Please do your part to protect our country. Go today and don't delay. To learn more, go to dhs.gov/real-ID. Thank you.
All right. Well, do you think she knows she's putting out misinformation?
Well, she better. She's the head of the department, and the thing is that a national ID does not protect our country. A national ID, is against our constitutional rights. It's against states' rights. It does not protect our country. Our country is not just a landmass. Our country is a concept. It's an experiment in freedom that there's been nothing like it in the entire history of man, to our knowledge, right? And so protecting the country means protecting freedom. It doesn't mean protecting the borders against intruders, if that's what she's saying. And other people like Congressman Massey, he says that would never have protected us against those who flew into, the World Trade Center because they had different kinds of passports. So, there's a lot of false words going on. And while it is probably true that at federal agencies, most will require it on the 7th, unless she plans to go and have the TSA go against their own regulation, you you will be able to fly on the 7th. There's actually a part in there that talks about 2 years of conformance and nonconformance. 2 years of nonconformance. So there's some anticipation at the Department of Homeland Security in their own rule that there will be 2 years of nonconformance. And so, so again, I would just like to encourage people to do several things. Go to refuserealid.org, get educated, educate everybody that you know. Let them know that the Real ID is not just a state ID, it is a national ID. It is unconstitutional. This whole act should be stopped. They should ask their state legislators. So we were testifying in the state of Maine. And again, for this bill that would repeal Real ID in the state of Maine. And every state legislature should have a bill like this, because if the states stand up like they are commanded to do in their own oath against an overreaching federal government, then we can stop what Secretary Noem and others are trying to do by imposing a national ID on all of us.
Absolutely. What do you make of some that are out there saying that this is going to be a way to fight voter fraud? I think that's a great way to try to convince conservatives, people concerned about those issues, maybe even some Democrats who are concerned about voter fraud, to go get one. But how is that going to fight voter fraud?
So the important thing to understand about voting is it's always been a purview of the states. And it should still be a purview of the states. The federal government, by the Constitution, is not allowed to interfere in the voting purview of the states. And so states can do this through a state identification card and their own laws. You know, the fact that California and Minnesota are and maybe other states are letting illegals get, IDs, are letting illegals vote. That is not something that the Real ID is going to stop. And if we had a Harris administration, for example, you can just imagine that the possibility that the Harris administration would have decided to, even though, to let illegals have the Real ID and vote. This is something where you've got to have the states to protect against the federal government, to protect against one administration doing something against all of the states. It's got to be in the hands of the state government, voting and identification and the right to travel. And, all of that needs to be at the state level, not the federal level.
Mm-hmm. How will a Real ID be a step toward digital ID?
Oh, yes. Thanks for asking that question. So the DMVs in every state have an organization, a national organization called AMVA, the American Association of Motor Vehicle Administrators. And in December 5th, 2023, they testified to Congress of their plans to digitize the Real ID, put it on everybody's phone, and have remote access to it, which of course means then at any time that the government would decide that you did something wrong or there was some reason, they have the power to shut it down. If you have your ID in your pocket, well, that's one thing. But if you have your ID in your phone and they decide to shut it down, you don't have an ID anymore. You don't have any possibility to do anything that you need the ID for. So, if you wanted to go through the airport security, for example, and they decided, no, you can't fly, they just shut down your ID and there you are, stuck in the airport and have to go home or figure out another way home or, whatever. And so, digitized ID means outside control of your device, your identification, and then you got to fight the government, in order to get it back. We really believe that it would lead, well, maybe it wouldn't lead to, but it would certainly open the door to a Chinese-like social credit system. And, one of the things that we're doing, I'm sorry?
Yeah, I'm saying yes, absolutely.
Oh, yeah, I was just going to say one of the things that we're doing to try to get the word out, because if you look on X, you can see that people who have MAHA and MAGA are on X saying, everybody get with it, get your ID. What's the big deal? Like, okay, you all don't understand what this means for your rights and for your freedom. And I know you love freedom. And so, getting out the word to the public is really important. So the documents that we have, like, yes, you can fly, or the document that says, lose your real ID, switch back to freedom, to help people know all the steps that they have to take, which really aren't that many steps, but at least to know how they can go and get a standard state driver's license again, to stop the government's move towards a digital ID. But also, we just started putting up billboards that are supported by donors. And so our first billboard went up just east of downtown Dallas, and the next one is going up in Kentucky. So we're trying to get people to put up billboards in their area. We've got the billboard. It's a great billboard, and we're more than happy to help spread the news in their neck of the woods, wherever it is.
Excellent. Excellent. Thomas Massey, he's asking President Trump to put a halt to all this, correct?
That's correct. I don't know what
do you think?
I think there might be some problems with his relationship with Trump. I recall that there was some major disagreement. It might have been having to do with finance or the debt ceiling or something like that. So I don't know what the success is, but it's a wonderful thing. It is a wonderful thing for Massey to come out against the Real ID, and more members of Congress need to do it as well. We would love to have Senator Rand Paul come out against the Real ID, and he is the chair of the Homeland Security Committee. So as chair of the Homeland Security Committee, he could do a lot to stop Real ID in its tracks if he chooses to.
Well, his dad, there's a famous speech of his dad on the floor warning about this many years ago, right?
That's correct. And Ron Paul just did, I don't know, I think it was Monday or Tuesday, on the 14th of April, Ron Paul did his own broadcast, his own podcast about the Real ID and the dangers of the Real ID.
Yeah, in fact, here it is. This is, several decades ago. Listen to what Ron Paul, this would be the father of Rand Paul, had to say many decades ago. Here we go, on the floor of the House.
I thank the gentleman for yielding, and I ask unanimous consent to revise and extend my remarks.
Without objection, so ordered.
Mr. Speaker, I rise in support of the rule. I rise also in support of the Sessions Amendment, but I also would like to take this time to make a few comments about why I will be voting against the bill. With the utmost sincerity and the deep conviction, I am quite confident that this bill, if you vote for it, you will be voting for a national ID card. And I know some will argue against that, and they say this is voluntary, but it really can't be voluntary. If a state opts out, nobody's going to accept their driver's license. So this is not voluntary. Matter of fact, even the House Republican Conference, who sent a statement around and some points about this bill, said the federal government should set standards for the issuance of birth certificates and sources of identification such as driver's licenses. This is nationalization of all identification. It will be the introduction of the notion that we will be carrying our papers. Matter of fact, I think it might even be a little bit worse than just carrying our papers and showing our papers, because in this bill there are no limitations of the information that may be placed on this identification card. There are minimum standards but no maximum limitations, and the Secretary of the Department of Homeland Security can add anything at once. So if they would like to put on there the fact that you belong to a pro-gun group, it may well appear on your national ID card, because there may be an administration someday that might like to have that information. But there's no limitations as far as biometrics. There's no limitations as far as radio frequency identification. That technology is already available and being used on our passports, which means that you don't have to show your papers. All you have to do is walk by somebody that has a radio frequency ability to read your passport or read your driver's license. And there's no limitation as to what they can put on these documents. And this bill also allows the definition of terrorism to be redefined. There is no limitations. And, you know, in many ways, I understand how well-intentioned this is, but to me it's sort of like the gun issue. Conservatives always know that you don't register guns. That is just terrible because the criminals won't register their guns. But what are we doing with this bill? We're registering all the American people. And you want to register the criminals and the thugs and the terrorists. Well, you know, why does a terrorist need a driver's license? They can just steal a car or steal an airplane or steal a bus or whatever they want to do. So you're registering all the American people because you're looking for a terrorist, and all the terrorists are going to do is avoid the law. But we, the American people, have to obey the law. If we don't, we go to prison. So I rise in strong objection to this bill, and I hope that there will be a few that will oppose H.R. 418. Thank you.
I'm inspired.
Wow. I mean, several decades ago after 9/11, you got the Patriot Act, you get this attempt at this. A lot of what he said was going to happen is what you're warning about several decades later, right, Twyla?
That's correct. And in fact, the federal law is, as he says, there are minimum requirements, but no maximum. And that means that while today they are requiring a biometric scanning and capture of your facial geometry, they could in the future decide that they need your iris scan or your thumbprint or your palm print or even your DNA. There is no limit on that. There's also no limit on the documentation. So there are minimum requirements for documentation, but let's just say that the government decided they needed to have you document if you were in any gun rights group, if you, if you have a gun, have to, register all of this in order to get your real ID so that you can travel and have transactions around the country. So, he's absolutely correct. This is absolutely what it is. It is a national ID, and we must shut it down. There's really no option if we want to be free in this country other than shutting this down. And so it's very difficult to listen to conservatives on X talking about what they don't really understand. They're misinformed and they are unaware, and they do need to be made aware, and they need to make their neighbors aware of, what they can do and what they have actually in their pocket. If they've got a star, get rid of that ID, go get yourself a standard driver's license. There are only 5 states that don't let you, although we're getting rumors of some other states who are saying, no, you can't. You can't make the exchange. And for those states, we're going to look into their regulations and see if the DMV is just violating their own regulations and laws, because according to Homeland Security, there are only 5 states that don't let you have a standard driver's license. And those are Texas, Georgia, Florida, Mississippi, and Wyoming. And so we would love to hear from other people who try to make the switch and use our instructions. We've found out that other people have told us they're helpful. Some people have more trouble, and other people it's as easy as could be. They just are like, okay, yeah, we'll just switch it for you. Although, the DMV folks don't understand why, because the whole push right now is on getting a real ID. I just like to tell people, make sure you have a passport card. People are starting to hold the passport card in their bellfold. But ultimately, we intend to win. We intend to win this battle. We intend for states to say no to Real ID. And yesterday, the Secretary of State in Maine said yes. You could forbid that we issue Real IDs in Maine, but that won't stop the federal government from requiring them for travel. But the fact is, if a state, 2 states, 3 states decide that they are not going to issue Real IDs, the federal government is not going to be able to maintain their requirement that you have to have a Real ID to fly. They won't be able to, because this could easily be taken to court, and the states would say, hey, under the 10th Amendment, you don't get to tell us what to do here. We've decided we don't want to be part of this program, and we're not going to be. And so you have to stand down. And I think that's ultimately what would happen in the courtroom.
Let's pray that's the case. What is the website again? Stop Real ID Act? Or refuse. RefuseRealIDAct.org.
I'm sorry, it's refuserealid.org.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Thank you. RefuseRealID.org. RefuseRealID.org. Let me show the website here. As you go there, the Citizens Council for Health Freedom, you'll find all kinds of information to deal with the misinformation that's, even as she has said, and I've seen it myself on X, being spread by so-called MAGA people, conservative people, make America healthy again. They're saying it's not a big deal, folks. Just go get it done and quit complaining. That's what I saw. So they're being misled. They need to get here to this website as well. Twyla, you've been on this for years. Thank you for your leadership and your education. Thank you for helping us be educated on this.
Well, thank you so much for, giving us a voice with your people. Thank you.
Absolutely. You're welcome back anytime. Twyla Brace checking in. Citizens Council for Health Freedom. Check out our website. Spread it all over the place, folks. Put it all over social media so we can get people up to speed so they quit putting out misinformation, even good people putting out misinformation, and we need to stop them from doing that, right? So thank you to her. Check out the website one more time. There it is, folks. Take a look at it. It's all there, right there. Go check it out. All right, now before we go to Aaron, I want to point you back here to worldviewtube.com/sponsors. Water, water, water. It's so important. And no wonder the new study came out today. I was being talked about by RFK Jr. Test on blood shows 80% of Americans have toxins in their blood. Well, what's in your water? What's in your water? What's in your food, right? You need one of these purifiers. I have one under my sink. Again, we don't promote products we don't use ourselves. We use this. I have this under my kitchen sink to get my water. And frankly, I'm not happy about having to sometimes travel because I don't have this filter. But, life goes on. But regularly, I don't want to be drinking it. So I have this filter under my sink at home. That's the water we drink. We make our coffee from. That's the water Dolly drinks. All my pets drink. It is not only filtering out the chemicals, the poisons, the toxins. It's infused with oxygen and with other great things as well. Magnesium. You'll find out about all of it at worldviewwater.net, worldviewwater.net. Look at all those chemicals that it takes out. This is a legitimate system. It's a major system, a major company. Again, check it out, worldviewwater.net, worldviewwater.net. You'll also find the banner for it at worldviewtube.com/sponsors. Okay. Speaking of sponsors, please consider going to worldviewfoundation.com and making a contribution of any size, folks. It's only through your support that we're able to do events like we did last night, helping to educate and encourage and equip people, put out this show each and every night. The player front and center, free of charge, not behind a paywall. Everybody can watch. Putting the show up the next day on demand to watch again, free. $8,000, around $8,000 a month in bandwidth and storage bills of these files to give you free programming, not to mention all the free apps, all right? So please support us now. Would you go to worldviewfoundation.com and make a contribution? Our mailing address is there as well if you prefer to support us through the mail. Worldviewfoundation.com, worldviewfoundation.com. Thank you for that. Should we make the big announcement, Logan?
Yeah.
Should we make the big announcement? We've been working on something. Logan and I have been working on something for the last, what would you say, 2 months, Logan? 2 months? All the plans are in place for us to go to Washington, D.C. the first week of May, and broadcast from our nation's capital. We have all the passes, the press passes to film on Capitol Hill on the House side one day, and then in the morning and that afternoon we'll be on the Senate side. We have members of the House who have confirmed to do interviews with us. We have members of the Senate to do interviews with us. We're going to be going to some other places that are like one of the places we're going to go is the Anti-Communist Museum. Do you guys know there's an anti-communist museum? I didn't know that. Tamara Scott, my broadcast partner, Tamara Scott, is the one that told me about the Anti-Communist Museum. Called them up, and they're so gracious. And so we're going to go there and learn more about communism It's going to be a great opportunity to do a lot of filming, bring you some great stuff. Okay? So again, when you help our foundation and you use some of our great products, helps us to go and fund doing things like this to bring you cutting edge interviews. And so we're going to the nation's capital. We also have been in communication with key people inside the White House. So we're working on some things related to that. We're going to be doing a lot. We're going to be doing a lot in DC and filming a lot and sharing a lot with you. But I'll tell you something else we're going to do. We're going to be doing some behind the scenes, okay? So as we take the motor coach out to the nation's capital and we do some special things along the way, and while we're there, we're going to be broadcasting some of it live on the Vault. So if you're a Vault member, we're going to take you along. That means you get on board the motor coach with the fam and 3 dogs and Michael Nini, our camera guy, and our bus driver, and you get to experience life on the road with us, not only traveling there, but then also while we're there. So we're going to do some behind the scenes stuff for Vault members, always trying to do a little extra for Vault members, because that's another big part of our general operating budget is our Vault. And pretty quick here, all the presentations from last night will be in the Vault for you to watch. Worldviewtube.com/Vault, worldviewtube.com/Vault. Let me take you there. You can join for as little as $7.99 a month. Oh, that's the year plan. As little as $7.99 a month. The 6-month plan is $8.99, or month to month $9.99. Pretty reasonable, right? And you're getting access to 35 years of my radio shows, TV shows, ebooks, audiobooks, documentaries, and more. It's all in there, folks. All of these shows that are just timeless, and the books that I've written, they're also timeless as well. The page is loading a little slow here in our hotel, but they're all there, and you can check all this out. But you also not only get all these great programs from years gone by, they're still very, very, very relevant, but you also get the live stream events like we did last night. You're also going to get to live stream some behind the scenes stuff as we travel on the motor coach to DC and as we tour DC. We'll be doing a lot of stuff. Some of it will be live. Some of it will tape it up and just say, hey, roll the tape. Let's let the folks on the Vault see this. And then Logan will load it pretty quick to the Vault. So some of this stuff will be live. Some of it will just be a matter of a few minutes old by the time it's loaded. But you're going to get a sneak peek behind the scenes of what it's like to travel on a motor coach with your family and your camera guy as well, Michael Nini, and the 3 dogs and bus driver. So anyway, I think you guys are going to love it. I hope you're going to enjoy it. I think it'll be fun, don't you, Logan?
Yeah.
And so another benefit to the Vault. We've been working on this for well over 2 months, and we're going to bring you some special programming. All of you will get to watch some of the programming. The behind the scenes stuff will be for the Vault members, but we're going to be bringing a lot of special programming to you guys. The Lincoln Memorial, Jefferson Memorial. We're working with the Park Service, the National Park Service, to get all the permits. See, that's the thing. Some things you don't need permits for. Other things, when you show up with tripods and 2 or 3 camera guys, you start needing filming permits. So I've been working early in the morning, Central Time, calling out to the East Coast to get all the filming permits. And of course, we had to work and get the press passes to go into the U.S. Capitol and film. And it's been a lot of work the last few months to do this, to bring you great programming. So folks, we work hard here. Lesser people would be off the air today after last night, getting in at 1:07, going to bed much later after that by the time you unpacked. It was a full day. Yesterday, from the time we left the hotel here in Northern Illinois, went over to Milwaukee, about 90 minutes away, and came back, it was an 18-hour day. From the time we left to the time we got back was 18 hours. But altogether, it was more than that, because we had to pack up yesterday. Then when we got back here, we had to unpack a lot of stuff. So yesterday was a crazy day. And I'm not bragging, but I'm saying most people would be off the air tonight, wouldn't they, Logan?
Yep.
I think they would. We're pretty tired, but we're also encouraged by what happened last night. It is amazing. So thank you to all of you who were there. But folks, we're working hard. And we're working hard behind the scenes, setting up interviews, getting press passes. Like I said, we've been in touch with some of the folks at the White House. So I'm not going to divulge too much about that, but I think you'll find some of that interesting and what we're going to be doing. So if you want to be a part of it, some of the behind the scenes stuff will be for Vault members, worldviewtube.com/vault. But a lot of it is going to be put out front and center for all of you. Okay. But I got to tell you, it is not cheap. Okay. It's not going to be inexpensive to take the motor coach, go to DC, be there for about a week. And again, the lodging and all the costs that go with bringing our crew with us. So we have to have the funds to do special projects and things to bring you. And if you appreciate that, the way you can support us, two ways. Go to worldviewtube.com/sponsors and use some of those products. Get a subscription of Bella Grace. Get a subscription of Galatana. Get a subscription of Numi. Okay? worldviewtube.com/sponsors. Another way you can support us, worldviewfoundation.com, helping us push out free educational and ministry programming, Christian worldview news and information. worldviewfoundation.com. Okay? So you can help out with some of the budgets to bring you these free educational programs from our nation's capital, worldviewfoundation.com. And then, of course, worldviewtube.com/vault, worldviewtube.com/vault. All right, here's the interview I recorded this afternoon with Aaron. Watch this. Joining me now is Aaron Goldson, CEO of Tennessee Conservatives Coalition. Aaron has been a guest on our show several times over the years. Been a while, glad to have him back. 2 years ago, I called Aaron because I knew that Aaron was very influential in our state government in Tennessee, in Nashville. And I said, Aaron, I know some folks that are needing to take legal action against, well, including churches that were hiding out pedophiles. Now, I know this is a problem and has been a problem in the Catholic Church, but folks, this has been a problem in Protestant churches as well. It's well documented. And I was shocked to find out that in my state of Tennessee, the statute of limitations was so short that a child that may have been molested at a church, that they maybe even harbored child molesters, that that child, once they become an adult, the statute of limitations may have already run out. That as a child, they're very afraid to say anything. As an adult now, they have more maturity. They understand their rights more. They have more ability to handle the emotional stress. And what they can't do anything now because statute of limitations have run. Shocked to find out in Tennessee how short they were. I contacted Aaron about it. He looked into it and he said, yeah, that's a problem. So he started working on it. We got big news tonight in Tennessee. And I hope what Aaron has done along with leaders in our state of Tennessee can be a model for other states who have not done this. Some of them have, but maybe some of them haven't. So tonight's a good news story. Aaron, welcome back to the broadcast. Thanks for being with us.
Thanks for having me. It has been too long, but this was too good news not to immediately pop on and say hi and tell the good people of your audience what we've been doing in the great state of Tennessee. So,
well, thank you for hopping on. Let's talk about it. When you found out, when you talked 2 years ago, you found out, you started making some phone calls. Tell us how the process worked. What the response was from high-level government officials when they found out how short the statute of limitations are for people that have been sexually molested or abused for legal action, civil action. What were some of the responses when they found this out?
I mean, everybody thought it was too short, right? And they immediately wanted to do something about it. And I will tell you, I mean, sometimes government isn't, shocker, I'm saying this slightly sarcastically, not the most efficient thing in the world. So we actually got 2 bills done, one last year, one this year. And there was a little bit of a drafting error last year by legislative staff that wasn't caught, frankly, until, and by staff, I mean kind of the bureaucrat. There was nothing nefarious about it, but it's, so the first version of the bill that we passed, and it's still into effect to this day, allows victims of human trafficking as children victims of human trafficking to sue their traffickers, their victimizers, with a 30-year statute of limitations past the age of 18. So if you were trafficked when you were 5, for example, you get to sue for, you can sue until you're, let's see, 48 years old. So there's a lot of years for that. The intent originally was to make sure that went to just victims of molestation. And so we had to work on it again this session, and we got it done. And Senate Majority Leader Jack Johnson in the Senate got it done, and State Representative Jake McCalman got it done. And I've passed a lot of bills that help kids and stop this kind of thing from happening. And enable, and this bill is it's very simple. It enables victims of child molestation to sue the pants off of their victimizer for an additional 15 years. And we also added what I'm referring to slightly amusingly as the sweetener. There's an extra 5 years for the prosecution of these people as well. So I like throwing the book at child molesters and human traffickers, and these two bills together do both and allow people for financial recompense. And another thing for people to know, 30 years is an important number because there's a lot of people that, and there's been studies of this, that can't fully grasp what happened to them somewhere in the range of 15 to 30 years of after they became an adult. So that's kind of where these seemingly random numbers will pop up when you try to address the problem, which is what we're doing. So the bill's passed. The governor's going to sign it. We're been in communication with his office. He's very supportive of helping kids. Governor Lee is very good on this issue, and we've been proud to work with him too on helping children.
Excellent. Great job, Aaron. Let me show the bill. Here we go. This is Tennessee General Assembly, HB 0973, SB 1070. Here's the description. Statute of limitations and repose, as introduced, extends the statute of limitations for criminal prosecution of certain child sex abuse felons from 25 years from the child's 18th birthday to 30 years from the child's 18th birthday. It extends the statute of limitations for a civil action based on child sexual abuse from 15 years from the child's 18th birthday to 30 years from the child's 18th birthday. Again, this also means that any so-called churches or organizations that want to hide out child molesters or sweep it under the rug, they're going to find their bank accounts can get hit, not to mention the criminal charges, but their bank accounts could get hit really hard. I think there was a case in Tennessee where there was a child that was molested. In fact, I was actually texting with a pastor friend of mine on this last week, and let's see what he said about it. He said there was a case, I won't mention the case in particular, but that this ended up leading to the family suing the church, and it was a multi-million-dollar lawsuit. I think he said here, sued the church for $35 million. Now, the problem is, as you say, a lot of folks who become adults realize what was going on is child molestation. They maybe can't process that in their mind when they're young, but now as adults, they realize that's what was going on. And in some cases, sadly, these churches knew about it and covered it up. Now, the victims can go for serious civil penalties, correct?
100%. And the thing, one of the reasons this issue is, it's just the righteous cause, right? But one of the reasons this issue is so important to me is I've had family members this has happened to. And I don't want to say any names because honestly, I can think of a couple of them that haven't even processed the issue themselves. But I was, unfortunately, conversations I've had with other family members inform me about it, right? But it's a very insidious, sick issue. It's not limited to just your perverted uncle or the classic stereotype. It does happen in churches. It does happen in schools. It does happen in Christian schools. And it's something that we have to give people, at the very least, we got to prosecute the living daylights out of the people that victimize them. But these people should also be able to get the financial restitution to put their lives together. Because you will see people in these situations, a lot of times, and there's redemption in Christ for everything, of course, but, it honestly explains why certain people lead lives the way they do. You see a lot of people, generally speaking, who turn to a life full of drugs or any other kind of substance abuse, and they have that in their background. Somebody victimized them at some other point in time, and they need to be able to find the tools to put their lives back together, and one of those is a financial recompense, right? One other thing I did want to add, one of the ways that we talked about this legislation publicly and privately is I flat out said, well, if anybody votes against this, pretty sure I know what's in their closet.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you know, sadly, and by the way, you hit the nail on the head. The people that end up being victims of this, many of them do turn to drugs, alcohol to deal with this. Others become very sexually active because at that point they're like, I'm used up, I'm trash, I'm no good. And now they're involved in all kinds of illicit sexual behavior, which again, only furthers their problem. But then you have kids who the parents don't know this has happened to them, right? And they're acting out. The parents don't understand why they're behaving this way. You know, a great story to read on this would be that of my friend Michael Reagan. He was the son of Ronald Reagan and Jane Wyman. I was his literary agent on his book, Twice Adopted. And he writes about, and gives speeches, and has spoken for me for my national conference as well. But I was his literary agent on that book. And he has for years, decades, talked about the fact that a day camp leader molested him when he was like 8 years old. Also took pictures of him. And he lived in fear his whole life that those pictures were going to come out and damage his father's political career. So he put all of it onto himself. You know, he instead of saying, I was victimized, I was molested, that's that guy's problem. He took it on and made it his problem, that this is going to end up being a problem for my parents, for my dad. And when he as he explains in his book, he had many, many issues, insecurity, all kinds of issues that led to behavioral issues, acting out, anger, right? Things he shouldn't even be angry about, like maybe a typical problem with a bike where the tire goes flat, and he would destroy the bike, right? Fits of rage. Well, of course, a lot of that was because he was trying to deal with what had happened to him, internalizing this. And his parents, obviously, as he writes about it, didn't understand what was going on until, as an adult, when he had his own children, he finally, went to his dad, and he writes about going to the Reagan Ranch and telling Nancy and President Reagan about this during President Reagan's term. And then Michael became very public about this and has been speaking up about these issues. And so a lot of families end up having real stress on their families because a child is now acting out, having behavioral problems, and the parents don't understand what's going on. My other kids don't have these problems. Why this child? So it's not just the child. Oftentimes the family members and the marriage, and some of these marriages, these parents maybe don't make it because of all the turmoil in the home, and they have no idea why this turmoil is there. And then, of course, some of the children do finally confess, and now it makes sense to the parents. And frankly, what you're talking about then, particularly if you're talking about an organization, a day camp, a church, who's been allowing for this or hiding these people out or making excuses for it or sweeping it under the rug, they not only should be compensation for the victim, but many of these families have had their family's serenity and peace stolen for years. Some of these families have had to go spend money on alcohol treatment, drug treatment for their child. Some of them had to take out second mortgages to pay for these things. And it all goes back to the day, or maybe multiple days over the weeks or months, and hopefully not longer than that, sometimes sadly years, but certainly multiple experiences where they were molested. And then that sets that child on that path. And now you got the emotional and spiritual and financial burden that was put onto that family. Now they're like, wait a minute. Our families had to spend all this money and time and effort to deal with this child. And it comes down, this was a multi-million-dollar church with a huge building and lots of money, and they were hiring people and putting people around my child that would molest them. Well, that church and that group needs to make restitution. I think restitution is fully biblical. But what are your thoughts on what I'm saying?
I mean, it's the most heartbreaking issue I can think of. I mean, I do think, A, it's a biblical thing to get the restitution. I think, B, this is such an insidious issue that people can live and die and grow up, and no one knows exactly what happened and knows why people act the way they do, and how much it damaged them and how much it damaged the families. The human cost is, we're trying to address the human cost by giving victims restitution and allowing them to go and seek the restitution. It is the least that we can do in this world, right? Only God can make people truly whole, but it's what we're doing with our government and our legislative system to provide this avenue for that. But it's something that is just so dreadful, and it's almost not enough well, I mean, it isn't enough, but it's only God that can be the one that can actually step in and make those people whole. So, I mean, for me, I view it as, if you're talking about this whole thing as a football field, we've helped fix the problem by moving it, a yard or an inch or something, you know what I'm saying? But that means the fight never ends. And so, I mean, I would encourage the audience to include however many times a day that they pray in their prayers something about these victims, because, I mean, they need it. And I know a lot of them.
Yep.
So.
Yep. And when Michael Reagan spoke for our conference in the Ozarks several years ago, we filmed it. And for folks that want to watch it, it's in our vault. You go to our vault, worldviewtube.com/vault. You just type in Michael Reagan, twice adopted, and it should pop right up. And it's his keynote presentation giving his own testimony at our National Ozarks Conference. So at the end of that speech, Aaron, grown men were coming up to Michael with tears in their eyes, talking about how they had been molested as children and that they'd kept it secret for years, and their family didn't know, their parents didn't know. Some of them had never bothered to tell their own wife until recently. So this is something, I think, if you had 1,000 people in a room and you took a silent survey, people wrote it down and passed it in with no name, I think we'd be shocked at how many of those people in that room have been molested. Because this is and of course you add the prevalence and accessibility of pornography and whatnot, and this is and now you add in sex trafficking, all these illegals that are here now. Not that all illegals do this, but a lot of them are, and Islamists, that think that a 6-year-old can be a bride, like Muhammad took Aisha at 6, supposedly consummated at 9, and we're letting these folks in from these third world countries that have this in their worldview. I think increasingly, if you got 1,000 people in a room, you'd be shocked at how many of them, men and women, were molested as children. What do you think?
No, I think that's right. I think the number would be astounding. And also probably even more astounding would be the people that it happened to that still hadn't realized that it happened to them because of the way their their brain has processed it. But, for those of us who are aware of this issue, and a lot of people don't like to acknowledge the darker side of the world, it's our duty. Sorry about that. It's our duty to try to be the millstone around the necks of these people who victimize innocent children, like Matthew 18:6 says. And of course, one of the central themes of the Bible is the protection of kids and how much God values them. I certainly wouldn't want to be one of those people once they meet their maker, because I don't think that.
Well said. Yeah, exactly. Aaron, hopefully this can be a model for other states too, to follow your legislation and be a model for other states. How did say, for instance, the Attorney General, how did he, or maybe the leader of the House, the leader of the Senate, how did any of them respond? The reason I ask that is just to, I know we talk a lot about the government and state, local, federal. Sometimes we're not always very complimentary, and with good reason. But there are still people in government, when you bring them very clear black and white issues, respond well. How did any of these leaders, the Attorney General, the head of that Senate, the head of the House, how did any of them respond as you approached them on this?
Well, of course, the head of the Senate, well, the majority leader of the Senate, we have a lieutenant governor that's the head of the Senate. But for the majority leader is the one who sponsored the bill in the Senate, Jack Johnson. He was fully on board. The lieutenant governor was fully on board. So the Attorney General, when you have these conversations with the Attorney General, first of all, he's a good and decent human being, and he did a lot of work when he was an assistant U.S. attorney in Memphis fighting human trafficking, so prosecuting and that sort of thing. So these issues matter a lot to him. And of course, also the conclusions to every conversation is, well, I can certainly defend this in court if anybody sues to overturn it, right? Our Speaker of the House and our House Majority Leader are always great on this. Their names are the Speaker of the House, Cameron Sexton, House Majority Leader William Lambert. They're great on this. Governor Lee on this issue always goes, what more can we do? Bring me more and I'll sign it. So we are, Tennessee is a very fortunate place to be. I do think I've lived in several states in my life. It's my favorite state I've ever lived in. It's my favorite state I've ever worked in. But it should be a model. And there might be some other states where it's a little harder to pass legislation like this. But in terms of our leadership here, and there's so many more I could name, it's always, if you present a problem like this, because they can't think of every idea on their own, right? I mean, the idea broadly going, I want to end child molestation is a great, it's really the ultimate goal, right? For this topic. It's showing them the legislation that they need to pass that helps aid in that goal. And they're normal human beings. They have wives, they have kids, they have families. They don't necessarily get to sit there and go, here's 1,000 different ideas that we have to advance the moral, the Christian, and the conservative cause, 24/7, right? So, but when you bring them something like this, it's always well received here. And I wish it was that way in every other state.
Yeah, I do too. And I love living in Tennessee. Well, when I heard about this problem 2 years ago, and the statute of limitations was so short, folks, I had one person's name in mind, and that's Aaron Goldson. I thought, I got to call Aaron. He has the Christian worldview. He has the legislative understanding. He has the connections. He will pick the ball up and he'll run with it. And he began to make phone calls. And some of the state leadership was like, wait a minute, our statute of limitations isn't already this long? Wow, I thought this needs to be fixed. So, Aaron, I want you to promote your website, because if folks want to support an organization, Aaron's is one I would urge you to support, particularly if you live in Tennessee. Aaron, what's your website?
You can go on conservativescoalition.com, and of course you can find us all over social media. On just type in Tennessee Conservatives Coalition, and you'll find everything. So we deal on issues all across the Christian and the conservative spectrum, and we've done a lot of good work for a while.
Yeah, you have. Any other big issue you want to bring the attention of the people?
I would say we did something the other day that I thought was pretty important. We were making sure that military and pregnant moms, and we passed an election integrity bill that ensures that everybody can vote in a local county primary election, and that they wouldn't be disenfranchised from those kinds of things. And that was HB 855. It was very important to pass because there was kind of a movement in just a few counties around the state to limit it so that 8 people in a back room somewhere could decide who their county elected officials would be without any input. And we have over 45,000 people that are in active duty, whether they're in the National Guard or the full-on U.S. military in our state, that can't vote in those kinds of elections. So it's kind of a simple bill because it normalized the process all the way from governor to U.S. Senate to Congress, state, to state office like state Senate, which has been that way since 1937. But we took it all the way down to county level offices, school board, and that sort of, school board, county commission, that sort of thing. So it was actually very important to do because there's a lot of people out there trying to just disenfranchise the military, and I don't stand for that.
Good for you. Good for you, Aaron. Aaron, you're doing great work. Thank you for your leadership. And I hope, again, this will be a model for other states. Let me show the website again here. If you go to the website of our capital, capital.tn.gov, you'll be able to find the bill. Just put it into a search engine, HB 0973. That's the House Bill, House Bill 0973, Senate Bill 1070. Maybe you guys should check in your state. Do you have a statute of limitations that are too short for the victims? If you do, maybe you need to do what I did and pick the phone, called a guy that's well connected and a mover and a shaker that has an organization with a great reputation and great contacts, and he immediately was like, we gotta fix this. And hopefully you have someone in your state, a family organization in your state, and you can use this bill as the model for your state. But I also want to urge you to go and support Aaron's organization, Tennessee Conservatives Coalition. He's doing great work, as you heard tonight, and we want to get you back on a more regular basis. Thank you for this update tonight, Aaron.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you.
Aaron checking in tonight. Tennessee, he's the CEO, Tennessee Conservatives Coalition. Gold hits another record high, and silver pops up over $33 an ounce. And now we have a headline. $4,000 gold is coming as risk assets crack, says Bloomberg's Mike McGlone. Gold today up well over $3,300 an ounce. And there are many like Peter Schiff who are saying we have a liquidity problem. The feds are going to have to lower interest rates, and then they're going to have to get involved in quantitative easing. This is a very important topic. Let me go over to worldviewreport.com. I think that's where we have the article today, at worldviewreport.com, about Peter Schiff. If I can find it real quick, because I was reading that interview and he did a great job talking about this. Well, I'll try to find it while I talk to Michael Weiner. But $4,000 gold. I said on radio today, do you remember when Jim Rickards was talking about $5,000 gold a few years ago? When we were hearing numbers like that, we thought, that's crazy. Can you imagine what must be going on in the country to have $5,000 an ounce gold? Well, here we are, over $3,300, and we have, the comment being made by Bloomberg, one of their guys, we're headed to $4,000 gold. So here we are, folks. By the way, we had some folks last night at the Waukesha Expo Center who said, one of them came up to me and said, I just finished a deal with Mike Weiner for my IRA. We've been talking about it for 5 years. And I said, well, that's great, but don't you wish you'd gotten involved in this 5 years ago with the price move? And she said, oh, yeah, but as Michael Weiner said, it's better to jump in now around $3,000 an ounce than to wait for it to go to $5,000. And they're exactly right, because I think that's where it's going. Michael, welcome back to the broadcast. Another historic jump in the price of gold. What do you make of this headline, $4,000 gold's coming? And what do you make of Peter Schiff saying the collapse, we're in the dollar collapse, we got a big problem here. Feds are going to have to lower interest rates. They're going to have to go back to quantitative easing. What are your thoughts on all this?
I know Peter personally, and at the end, reality is going back to the Mike Weiner prediction board of in January 5th, when I predicted 3,000 the end of March. And the last time we did a show, I said, boy, we might hit 3,300 before the end of the month, and here we are. I can tell you now, gold is being used. There's a big factor that all these people are losing. Putting aside the money problem, the money problem exists because under Biden, not at the fault of Donald Trump, he printed too much money. We have a major issue in the bond market, a major stability issue in the bond market that could collapse. We have a debt crisis, and that has to be dealt with, and turning that debt over coming up in a few months that will affect the bond market. Basant knows it. That's why he's embracing gold as part of the United States government again. You're going to see that happen in Fort Knox. But the reality is the world is looking at gold as money. That's why Utah wants to pay their bills in gold. Gold, in my opinion now, I'm raising my little whiner outlook to 4,200 or better year end, might hit 4,500. And it's not because of problems in the United States. It's because the world's embracing gold as money, the issues in the bond market that are there, and additionally, the currency issue of too much money out there. The Federal Reserve, rather than playing political games that they are playing right now, they say they're not, but they are hurting this country, and they're breaking the law. Actually, the law states they can't do this. So it's quite concerning, but I think when it all comes out in the wash, we've got the right people in power right now to pull this out. But for these people who sit back and say gold is too high, call me in December and tell me that, okay? The reality is for the people who call us today, I had somebody call me and just ask me that, well, my financial advisor doesn't recommend gold. Well, they don't recommend gold because they don't make money on it. Gold is a tangible asset. It's not a fungible asset. It's not paper where you can keep charging fees. So it's actually an antichrist to them. And the bottom line is, please, 95% of the time, Wes and I would tell you, financial planners don't embrace gold because they don't understand it. That's why. I'm done.
Mm-hmm. So gold, what did it do today? What did it hit today? 33 what?
33.32 right now. 33.32.
33.32. And what did silver do?
Silver's a little bit over $33.05 right now. So the big margin for silver is if going over $34 is a huge threshold. If it goes over 34, it should run to 40 for those technical people. That's when it's going to get interesting for silver.
Now, are we going to see the Feds lower interest rates?
This Federal Reserve idiots, they should do it in June.
And we got a dogfight right in the middle of the studio, so you'll have to apologize. Our little mini Schnauzer and Dolly are going at it, but keep going, Michael.
My money on Dolly. Anyways, I think that they won't do it in June because they literally won't do it to snub Trump. But I think they will be forced to do it in the fall. I just don't trust them. They don't show to have it. They should have done it the last time they got together, and they didn't. So based on that, I think they'll pass on June and flow into the year end. That's when I think we'll have it.
And again, you agree that there's a liquidity problem here?
Absolutely. There always has been. Plus, there's a huge bond instability situation. Huge bond instability situation that has to be dealt with, especially coming up with this debt turnover that we have coming up. The United States government has to flip over its debt that it has. And that's something, and it's not something for all the people out there, none of this is Trump's fault. It was given to him by Nappy Boy Joe, who was on TV last night. He must have been on heroin or something, talking about Social Security, which the only thing he should talk about is leaving. But I think that the liquidity problem was caused by the Democrats. They're not embracing it. They're going to blame all this on Trump. But I think realistically, the people who will solve it are in office right now. I think it'll get bad and then start clearing up by the year end.
But if it's clearing up, why is gold going to be hitting record highs into maybe 3,400 by the end of the year, as you predict?
Gold is going to help it to clear up. Gold will help it to clear up because when the U.S. dollar When the United States government reissues a statement that no longer their gold is priced at 42.50, it's based on the spot price of gold. What does that do to gold? It states that the United States of America says $3,332 is the price gold should be today. What does that do for gold? Creates a floor market. It's going to be a constant positive. And I said this before, and you're going to see China on the other end utilizing their gold with the BRICS. The battle is not going to go away, but at least we have people fighting it that are fighting it. And the only way you can properly protect yourself is to stabilize your portfolio by having an anchor in it and some precious metals. And don't wait, because you'll pay me more later. I've said it before. Every time I say it, somebody calls me up and says, I should have listened to you 2 weeks ago. I'm telling you now, gold's 40,000, 4,200 year end. It's now April 16th.
4,000, 4,200. Wow. 4,000, 4,200 by years in. Again, if you want to find out how to put gold in your portfolio, numismatic, 1933 and older, which provides privacy. If you want to find out about bullion or putting gold into your IRA. The couple again last night, dear couple, said, hey, we just did a deal with Michael Weiner putting gold in our IRA. We've been talking about it for 5 years. We finally pulled the plug on it, and they were very happy. I had 2 or 3 people last night tell me how happy they are working with you and Wes, Michael. So thank you for taking care of our people.
We love them. They're good people.
If you want to get the, yeah, they are good people. Look at this, folks. If you want to get more information, get the free packet, just go to worldviewgold.com, worldviewgold.com, fill out the form at the bottom of the page, and you'll get a free, no obligation packet of information on putting gold into your portfolio, including if you want to put gold into your IRA, okay? And then you can take custody of it, pay the tax and take custody of it, or pay the tax and take a check. You know, sell some of it and get a check, and you can just keep drawing on it as the price goes up, and you can keep the rest of it as that hedge against inflation and draw on it as you need it. And that's what Wes and Michael explain, all of that to you and how it works. Again, they're not interested in selling you. They're interested in educating you. And once you're educated, then you can make an informed decision. I personally don't give financial advice. I give financial opinion. My opinion is you should get the free packet of information, do your own homework, and then go from there. Worldviewgold.com to get that free packet of information. Worldviewgold.com as gold hits another record high. Thanks for being with us, Michael.
Always a pleasure, Brandon. Dolly, have a good night. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Michael Weiner checking in. Check out worldviewgold.com. All right, that's our broadcast for April 16th, 2025. Take a look at the screen right here. Go there, will you, right now? Worldviewfoundation.com. That you help us make things take place like last night, where we were able to encourage and equip and edify over 1,000 people, standing room only. All right. Again, we announced tonight for the first time, we're headed to our nation's capital the first week of May. Taking a motor coach, taking the film crew. We're going to produce a lot of interviews that we're going to bring you right here on Brandon House Live. That's not going to be cheap, so we need your support. Worldviewfoundation.com, worldviewfoundation.com to bring you Christian worldview news and information, or join the vault for some behind-the-scenes programming on that trip. Worldviewtube.com/vault, worldviewtube.com/vault. Roll the music. Let's call that a night. Thanks to all of you who pray for us. One lady said, I've been praying for you. She was right there in front of me. She said, this is my first time to meet you in person, Brandon. I've been praying for you for years. I met the gentleman last night that told my wife he was awakened in the middle of the night and urged to pray for my family and I. That was within a few hours, our motor coach tower blew out, ended up in the ditch. Could have been killed easily. So thank you to all of you that pray for us. We appreciate that. May God save America. Take care. Tonight on the Worldview Report, the Trump administration is already undergoing a house cleaning as a top aide to Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth is removed following a leak, and a State Department official who clashed with Secretary of State Marco Rubio over how much foreign aid should be cut is also ushered out the door. A California Democrat congresswoman has admitted House Democrats are coordinating every single week with a far-left state attorneys general to weaponize the justice system against President Trump and his America First agenda. As Holy Week begins, Islamic jihadists, well, they launch yet another murderous attack on Christians in Nigeria. A 24-year-old Muslim man in Georgia is arrested for allegedly threatening to assassinate Tulsi Gabbard. And the Trump administration grants fast-track status to a highly controversial self-amplifying mRNA vaccination that's targeting the H5N1 avian influenza virus. All these stories and more as the Worldview Report begins right now.
This is Worldview Report with host Brandon House. Whether it is news from the nation's capital or your state capital, from the classroom to the boardroom, from national security to national and local news that impacts you and your family, Worldview Report is your trusted source for vital and uncensored news. And now, here is Brandon House.
Good evening and welcome to the Worldview Report. A top advisor to Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth was put on leave for leaking sensitive information to the media. Dan Caldwell was escorted out of the Pentagon on Tuesday for, quote, an unauthorized disclosure, end quote. That's according to Reuters. Details of the unauthorized disclosure remain unclear. According to Reuters, this comes after a March 21st memo ordering a Pentagon investigation into leaks, and they were ordered by Pete Hegseth's chief of staff. Caldwell, a senior advisor to Pete Hegseth, was placed on administrative leave for, quote, an unauthorized disclosure, end quote. That's what the official said, speaking on condition of anonymity. The decision has not been previously reported. The official said the investigation remains